Hello and welcome to another lesson in our Python programming. And in this lesson, we're going to deal with our third and last basic applications using Python and TK Inter. And in this lesson, we're going to be designing a very cool digital clock for a desktop. So let's see how it looks like before we begin with the coding aspect. I've already created one here, so let me just launch it, then we see how it looks like. So this is a very pretty cool digital clock for a desktop, which we can equally use Python and TK Inter to design it. As you can see, very nice, good looking. You can position it anywhere on your desktop. Whatever you do, you can be watching your time as you do it, and basically that is that. So let's quickly dive right into the coding of it. So close this. First thing first, we create our folder where we shall be keeping our file inside. So you can name it D clock. I've already named one digital clock here, D clock, something like that. D clock. So inside, as usual, you know what to do. We create our file, which we call text document, but then we give it a name like clock digital. Let me just turn it the other way around, something like that. Clock digital. Then we change the extension to the .py family. So .py. Close this. Sorry, close this, and then we now go to our Pycharm. Try to import the file here. Begin writing our codes inside. So locate our desktop. On the desktop we have what's the name of our, we call it D clock, right? Let's refresh our desktop. You can get it back here. Good, there we go with it. This is the folder. Click here and then choose this clock digital. So to run it first, you can see here we have car racing, which is ready to be run. I've already created another program which is car racing, but then we'll be looking at that as well. But let's see how it goes. It's a bit longer and lengthier, and I don't want to bother you with too many lines of codes. At this is just the beginning. We begin to see all these things and it becomes a problem. So that's that. So let's run this particular file. So to start with and do with this one, come to run here, then you choose clock digital. So you can see here has been changed to what clock digital, which means whatever we write here can be run and then run perfectly without any issue. So to start with, first thing first, we import our TK Inter and then import time model. So we say import TK Inter. I will say from TK Inter, let's import everything from TK Inter. So to do that, I will say from TK Inter, as the second one, imports. So with the stop here means we are importing everything, and we import time as well. Import time. So now we declare our variable we call master and then initialize it to the TK. So we say master. Then you can name it whatever you want. Master equal to TK. Then this. Sorry. Shit. Good. And then we can then check on how to, maybe this marks the beginning of our what they call it main window, right? So here we can have master.main loop rather. So you say master.main loop. So this way. So we run it, we should have our cool window interface here, so we can start with. So as usual, you know what's going to happen. So the next thing we're going to do is let's try to define some of the height, the resizable, and then the title of it, right? So to do that, we call on the master dot to begin with. Let's begin with what the title, or what? Yes, dot title, master dot title. And title should be something like digital clock, or I can say clock digital or digital clock, whatever. Sorry, the title should be a string. Sorry. digital clock. When we run it, we should have the title popping up cool without any issue. So that is that. We should have it here. A digital clock. That is that. Good. Now the next thing is let's check on this. Since we've been giving it a default size, we don't want it to be resized. So we call on the resizable method. So we call master dot resizable, and into brackets. Then we define height, set it to false, which means we don't want it to be what. So the width, we set that one as well to false. We don't want it to be resized. So we run this. Then we have this blur. It means we can resize it. Just maintain the size of it right like that. So the next thing is we define the geometry, the dimension of it, where we want it to be positioned when we run it. As usual, whenever we run it, it appears somewhere here, but we don't want it down. We want it to appear somewhere here by default on the screen. Anytime you launch it, when we are done creating it, make it executable, and someone installs it on the PC, by default we want it to be positioned here. That is when the person can think of where to move it on the desktop and all that. So that is let's define that. So we call on the master dot geometry, dot geometry, and into brackets. Then we say, then it should be a string. Then we say 600 by 200. Sorry, 600 by 200. Sorry, 600 by 200. Then plus 350 plus 300. 350 plus 300. Naturally, the 600 by 200 is the 600 is the length of it, 200 is the width of it. Now the 350 here is the distance from the top of the screen to where the clock is going to, I mean the width of the clock is going to start with, and then the 300 is from the side of the screen to where the clock is going to start with. So let's write it, and we see that to be positioned somewhere here. So you see this. So this to this is what? The 350, and then here the edge of the screen to here is what? The 300. Now the length of it is the 600, then the height of it is what? The 200 here. So that is that. Now the next thing is let's define a global variable. By the way, I haven't even explained this before. I should have done that. A global variable, like as the name implies, global, it can be used anywhere. Some of them have limitations, as when you try to use them in functions, they begin to misbehave. But some of the text editors allow that, and a text editor like Pycharm sometimes tends to tell you that it should be predefined before it's used. So that is how they are. They are predefined. We predefine them before we come and use them in the function. So since we'll be using a variable called time now, we need to predefine it, and then we come and then when we write our function, we can then use it inside, then it becomes what? A global variable. So we say what? Time now. That's the variable. So for now, we can't leave it like that. We need to assign it to something. But since we don't have anything to assign it to, we can give it an empty string. So it means there's nothing inside. Now we declare a variable called cFrame. Then we are now going to be defining the frame of the clock. Then we assign it to frame into bracket, then master, call on the master variable, then comma, then the width of our frame should be something like 200, comma, and the height should be 100. Sorry, the height should be 100. And then the background should be green, so we call it the BG, should be what? Green. And then the relief, we have some property we call relief, and it's also style. Show some of the styles we saw when I ran the one I've already created, called the relief, something like that, right? Good. This is equal to let's see something. Oh, okay, it should be a comma here, then relief. This should be equal to, set it to groove. This will make it appear in something like, let me just show you. No, okay, it wouldn't work for me. Let's proceed. I will show you all this. Okay, then from there, let's proceed and then pack our C frame. Then we run it. It's what's going to happen. So we call on C frame.pack. So it's a C frame.pack. Call on this. So we can then run it and see what's going to happen. So this is what we are talking about. So these are the properties we have just defined. The groove, you see that it looks like it is on top of the background. It's like it's placed on top. It's not like a color that has been painted. No, that is the groove property. It's like it's placed on top of it. So that on top of the white background, but not that the white background is painted to green. Rather, no, it's like it's placed. If you look at the edges, you see it looks like it's placed on top of it. So basically, that is that. Now let's proceed and check on the. Let's name another variable and call it clock, right? Good. We'll say clock. And we assign it to what? Label. Clock is equal to label into bracket C frame, then comma, then the padding X. We want to set it to 25, comma, then the padding Y. We want to set it to 40. That is the height of it. The padding X is the width of it, and the padding Y is the height of it, right? So let's proceed. So set it to 40, then the comma, then the border should be something like 3, yes, 3, and comma. Then the background, that is BG, should be something like BG should be light green. Light green. And after the background, which is light green, we talk of the foreground too. The foreground should be dark green. The FG should be a string. Sorry, dark green, and comma. After that, then we talk of the font, right? The font of our clock, how the font should be. We are going to use Arial for now. Arial, let's use it. So call on the font, and it's font. This is equal to, then the font should be Arial, right? Yeah, we know the font Arial. So, and then the size of the font should be 48, and then it should be bold, right? So it should be in a string, bold. So basically that is that. And then the relief inside this particular label we are talking about should be sunken, something like. Those who know sunken, when we were using some of these sunken properties for should be a comma here. Relief, this is equal to sunken. Call it sunken, something like this. Good. To make it work perfectly, we need to pack it. So we call on the clock variable. So we say clock.pack. Clock.pack. So we're done. Let's run it and see what's going to happen. Oh, there's something wrong here. Label here. This is it. Label. Let's just check on something. Whenever you run into an error, check and try reading here. Don't be frustrated. Try reading here. You'll be guided on how to debug the error. Python is telling me the error appeared on line 14. And then for that matter, within these properties I was defining, there is no property called label. So I'll check, where did I name something like that? And I've just realized it's here, and it's lacking the L. I just added the L. So done. So it means when I run it, it should work for me now. Cool. So this is it. These are the properties. This is a sunken. It's like you can see it like it's inside. Yes, the green color is like it's inside, dipping inside. That is a sunken property here. Basically, that is for now. It looks like this. When you finally enter the digits, the clock, then you see that everything should be working perfectly without any issue. Cool. So that's that. Now let's proceed. Now the next thing we're going to do is to define our function, right? Define our function. So call on the def keyword. Def. Let me give you the name. You can call it tick, the ticking of the clock. We're not going to pass in any define the parameters for it, so we're going to leave it like that. Then we now call our time now, but we pre-call it with what? The global keyword. Then we call the time now. That's what I've just said, time now. So it will now work here without any issue. If we were not to pre-define it, it wouldn't have worked. Sometimes it doesn't work. So we want to assign it to what? New time. So we say new time is equal to is equal to time dot string f time. Time dot string f time. Now let's see the formatting of our time. We want it to appear hours, minutes, seconds, and then the either the AM or the PM stuff or those things, right? So let's do that. So let's call on the inverted commas, then you bring the modulo sign, that is the percentage sign, then H for hours, then space, then another percentage sign, then the M for minutes, then this, then space, then another percentage sign, then you bring S, that is for seconds, space, then another percentage sign, then you bring something like P, it stands for either PM or AM. So we are done. So this is the formatting of our time. This is how we want the time to be formatted. Good. We're going to make some decision here. We're going to say if new time is not equal to time now, if the new time that we have imported is not equal to the time that we have now, and the time now should be equal to the new time. That is what this will ensure changing of the time to make sure that the time is in order. Good. So that is that. So we say if new time, those who know this particular operator is not equal to time now, can remember it's not equal to time now, then time now should be equal to what? New time now, new time. So basically that is that. Now let's configure our clock. So we call the clock.config. So we say clock.config. Inside our bracket, we're going to define pass some arguments. So you say it's equal to time now. Good. Now this constantly changes the time and updating the time. This particular config, it changes and then update the time as the clock is ticking. So that is that. So we then proceed. Now what we are going to say here is this: clock dot after every 3 I'm coming, let me just finish this. Clock dot after method into brackets 200 comma tick. What we are saying here is this: the clock ticks after every 200 milliseconds. So that is what is happening here. After every 200 milliseconds, the clock ticks once. That is how the normal clock ticks do. So that this shouldn't be a problem. So from there, we can then proceed and call on our tick function, right? So we can call it. Now we have defined a function. It will not work unless we call it. So we call it by its name, right? So we say tick. Now let's run our program and see what's going to happen. Oh, there's an error somewhere. Oh, okay. After the declaration of after the if statement, I need to terminate it. So you can see with this error, it's telling me the error is found on line 21, so which is here. And now you can see this arrow tells me that I need to terminate my statement here, which I failed to do. So I will say terminate it here. So it should work now. Let's run it. Cool. Now the clock is working. Cool. But it's like it appears that we don't like these fonts, right? So let's see how we can change our font. So to change our fonts, we have downloaded some fonts on web. So I'll be uploading them on the Telegram so that you use. So this is it. So for you to be able to use the font we call DS Digital, we need to install any of this. You just double click on it like this, and then you click on install. To just install it and then successful, so it means it's installed, so you can use this font for your clock. So the name of the font is what? After installing it, you can then go back to the source. It means it's now running on your system. This font is now running on your system and you can use it anywhere. So for us to use it in our program, we just come here and go to where we give our font property or the font style and change it to DS Digital. So DS and then DS Digital. Let's run it and see now. Cool. So our clock is now up and running without any issue. So it means everything is working perfectly with these few lines of codes and all that. So you begin working with apps like this. Try working with around them. Try searching the web, learning how to create cool things with Python and all that. That is what will make you grow in learning Python, have interest in it, and then know the path to take. So I think we are done with this. For you to have everything saved in your file that you created in the folder, you have to go to file and click on save all, and then that will be saved in your file there. So basically I think that is that. So I think without any more issue, I think we'll end this tutorial here. But with if possible, if there is another thing I will have to add with the game I've created. In fact, the video is too long for me to explain every concept for you to understand in that game I've created using the Py game. To take me almost 2 to 3 hours, which I don't want it that way. So I'll just give you the source code and I'll try to give some comments in the source code to explain some few lines of codes. You also just write the codes and run it on your machine. Then from there you can see how it works. That is if I decide to do that though. So let's see how it goes. So till then, I say thank you very much for watching, and then bye for now.